I'm on fire right now, guys, with this. Alright. It's like a carbon fiber factory around here. Tony D Carbon Works. Watch out. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm still building, I'm still cranking away. I've reached a point where it's time to do some interior work, and I'm making a bunch of custom parts out of carbon fiber. One of the things that I need is a nice fat chunky sheet of carbon to make some electric panels that's going to mount to the roll cage I just completed on this car. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the steps of making a nice fat hybrid carbon fiber fiberglass sheet. If that kind of thing blows your skirt up, stay tuned, because it's going to be a good one. I was having a hard time deciding if I was going to make a video on this, guys. I did a video a couple of months back regarding making a one-off carbon fiber filler panel, and everybody loved it, but it didn't really get many views. So I don't know, I think this is it's always a cool process. I mean, I love working with composite materials and perfecting my technique always. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that I need to make for the interior, so I'm going to give you guys the basics with this without any specific complicated mold. So the simplest mold I can do is a flat panel for you guys. This is a piece of melamine. It's like shelving material I got at the big box hardware store. It's really cheap, but the cool part about this is it is a flat panel. It's going to be finished only on one side, and I want it to be satin. This melamine has a very, very, very fine texture to it, so it really works nice. With this type of material, it's basically like MDF board on the edge. So I've used, again, we'll go over this, we use clear packing tape, and I just went around about 3/4 of an inch all the way around the perimeter, and I rolled the tape over the edge, so the epoxy is not going to want to bond to the mold. Okay? The first step, let me back up, the first step was to clean it with wax and grease remover, because we don't know what's on this board. You know, we need it super clean. I stuck the tape, and now I'm coming in. This is a Pardol wax. All right, it's mold release wax. I'm gonna put a couple of coats on. It's 24 inches by 48 inches. You want to make sure we pull it clean. We don't have any problems. After we put this down, I'm gonna put down polyvinyl alcohol. It's a liquid, water-based vinyl product that we're gonna spray on, and we're gonna get it nice and thick. So we got to make sure that we take all the right steps in preparing the surface of this. So once we lay up our carbon and we pull it, we just want it to pop right off, like no stress. We don't want to do any surface work to the finished part. Once we pull it, we want it done. That's it. There's no playing games. With mold release wax, you want to put like at least 3 coats on, but that's not saying to stop you from putting 5 to 6 coats on. All right, more coats you put on, basically the more insurance you're gonna get. Okay, so we're gonna throw on some PVA. You got to build up at least a mil or two of the PVA on your surface, because when we pull the part, we're gonna peel the PVA off. You know, if it doesn't pull off that easily, which it should, but if it doesn't, you know, it's water based, so water cleans it up very well. All right, I am going to shoot it out of a old school. I have this gun dedicated to PVA. It's just an old primer gun that I have, and ever since I converted using this product on this, I'll never use it for paint anymore, because I'm nuts like that. I'm going to shoot this at like 45 psi, multiple coats, light coats. Kind of dust it on, all right? Especially the first 2 or 3 coats, you want to dust it on. You can't, if you hammer it on, it's going to fisheye like crazy. All right, so this is after about 5 coats of the polyvinyl alcohol. Came out really good. Couple bugs. I don't know if you can see them, but we flicked them off. No problem. Had a little whoopsie here. That shouldn't show up in the finish too drastically. Not really worried about it. Here's a little bug. All right, he's stuck in there though. He's not going to be in our part. We're ready to do this. Let's lay some carbon, guys. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to wait. We got to wait a little while. I'm going to give this about a good hour, you know. In the meantime, we'll start prepping our stuff, laying our tools out. I've already put some plastic down. My go-to epoxy is the Total Boat product. However, I was over at Fiberglass Supply Depot. This is their brand epoxy. It's the EpoSteel 103 LVX. This is a slow hardener, 2-to-1 product. I'm going to give this a shot on this panel. All right, got my mixing cup, my little mixing stick. I got my brush. I got my spreader and the bubble buster. This is a beautiful 3K twill carbon fiber. It's 5.7 ounce material. All right, that means it's 5.7 ounces per square yard. Beautiful stuff. All right, so we're going to do 2 layers of carbon for our first 2 layers. All right, so we're going to measure. We know that our mold's 24 inches. We want to be a little bit bigger than that. When you buy carbon, there's always this little piece of Kevlar that's holding it together. We're going to snip the Kevlar here, and we're going to snip it on the other side, and we're going to pull a strand out so we can cut a straight line. One of the hardest parts about doing this is this part right here. You need a good pair of scissors, and that Kevlar does not like to cut easily. All right, now we're going to find wherever we cut. I like to pull 2 pieces out. When we pull the 2 pieces out, it kind of wants to distort on you at first, but then I'll show you up close. Look, as you're pulling it out, you see right here, I'm pulling the strands, and now I'm going to have a nice clean line here, you see? So I can't do it. Sorry guys. I can't do it holding the camera because you got to kind of pull and support the one side and pull it out, right out. All right, there you go. So I pull 2 pieces out. Now I don't throw this out. This goes in a bag. I save this. You never know when you need to make a little paste and chop it up real fine and you make glue. Okay, so I'll make glue out of that. All right. When you work with carbon, you learn to work with efficiency because this stuff is not cheap. All right. So now we have a nice straight line. Even though it looks crooked, the material moves around, you see? So you can always make it straight. So nice sharp scissors, and just cut on the line. I'm going to cut one more piece after this, and then we'll get into the next. So remember, this is the first layer, and then everything from here, and we don't fold our carbon, we roll it up. Okay? Roll it up nice, and we put it out of the way. Okay, next up, this is a 17 ounce, it's called 1700 biaxial fiberglass weave, and it's on a 45-degree angle. So you see this side's on a 45, and then when we flip it over, it's the opposite way. Okay? So that gives us an so you can see through it. See, you got some going this way, some going that way, and then they're stitched together on these lines, so they're not woven over each other, they're next to each other. This gives you an unbelievable amount of strength, okay? But you don't get the stiffness as you do with woven. You see, so you got the best of both worlds here. It's going to have woven, and then you have this for torsional strength. All right, so I'm going to cut 2 pieces of this. We're going to have 2 pieces of that. Then we're going to do some coremat. Again, roll this up out of the way. This is a 4mm coremat. I don't know if you're able to see it, but there's a million little hexagons. Okay? And what that's going to do for us, it's going to build stiffness and thickness. Alright guys, so you can see this is all the material that we're going to be using to make this panel. 2 layers of carbon, 2 layers of 1700, and 1 layer of 4mm coremat. Okay? Everything's prepared. Our mold is prepared. Okay? Now, every step is important. This being the most crucial, alright? Remember, this is a mold, so this is going to be what the first layer we put on is what you're going to see. Okay? So I take my waxy rag that I used to wipe this down with, and I'm just going to give it a little quick wipe down. All right, we don't want anything on there that's not supposed to be there, minus the bugs. The bugs are free. Okay? If this was going to be a shiny carbon fiber panel that we would make on top of a piece of glass or a mirror, we would not do it this way. So for all the carbon fiber connoisseurs, remember that I'm making a piece of matte finished, satin finished, whatever you want to call it, okay? And I don't need the distance of the epoxy between the surface of the carbon and the finished product. That's how you get that prismatic effect. If you do it, if you put the epoxy on first, you don't have the opportunity to get this carbon dead even and square. Okay? When you do it the other way, it always comes out not so straight, for me anyway. Alright? So what I do is I make it as best as I can, as straight as possible. Notice we cut it a little bit bigger than the mold. That'll help us pull it too. So I got it pretty straight, about as straight as it's going to get. Try to keep it neat. No debris anywhere. You have a little bit of fluctuation with this, but you want to kind of get your measurements as accurate as possible. This is the first layer. And as I explained earlier, we're not looking for that depth, but what we don't want is pinholes. Okay? So we got to work this first layer really, really good. And we're going to use a little bit more resin than normal. And we're going to work the bubbles out of this. This is the most important part of getting a good finish. Okay? So let's work it. Light pressure, let's start from like the middle area. And just move this epoxy around a little bit and let it do its thing. Don't try to push it too hard yet. We're going to use a different tool for that. I'm working slow, but not too slow. Alright? You got about 20 minutes of working time with the slow epoxy. And the weather right now in the garage is nice and cool. Well, cool for me. It's probably about 70 degrees in here right now. 70, 80 degrees. Okay. So we got everything on pretty even. Everything seems to be saturated well. Here's our fin roller. Okay? And I'm going to nice and easy start popping all the bubbles. This is This is a bubble buster. Now, I'm not pushing too hard on this. Remember now, we got that PVA under there, so it's not like we can't go through it. You know, we don't want to push into it. So I'm just gently and gracefully popping all the bubbles. I'm going to do this a couple times, and then we're going to help move things along by putting some heat on it. Because epoxy is weird. It'll just keep on creeping and creeping and creeping when it's in this state. That's why we use that tape, you know, on the edges, because it'll creep underneath that. It'll creep all the way down. It'll find its way. It's like how water will find its way. That epoxy will definitely, it'll find itself in a place where you don't want it to be. Trust me. I'm going to work with the heat gun a little bit. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see, but as soon as that hot air hits those bubbles, it pops them. All right, now this heat gun gets really hot. All right, so we don't want to make it too hot because we're going to accelerate the epoxy curing if we do that. We're just trying to get them bubbles out. Now I know it's like, oh, well, how do you know the surface bubbles? This brings it up. All right, this brings up all the surface bubbles, and the surface meaning the part that's touching the mold right now. This will help bring those bubbles up. We really got to spend a lot of time here getting this one right. If we do this, the whole job is done right here, guys. You know, you can have a perfect finish. We've taken all the steps necessary to make a perfect job. We've been very clean about it. And this is what it takes from here on in to get a nice, clean job. I'll work it again with the fin roller, and I'll touch it one more time with the heat gun before we call it good. Stuff like this, guys, is hard. You know, it's hard enough to do this and get a good result and then film at the same time. So, I don't know. I do the best I can here for you. When it comes to this stuff, I mean, a lot of it's trial and error. Sometimes, years ago, before we had YouTube, spent a lot of time perfecting and trying to figure out the best way to get a finish. And this is like thousands of dollars worth of materials that I've gone through to try to perfect this process. So hopefully it helps you guys out a little bit. Okay, I worked it for about maybe 10 minutes. All right. You could see some imperfections in it, but that's okay. But this is kind of like what you want it to look like. All those little dots, you know, those are all little air bubbles that are still coming up. Thing is, you don't want to overwork the epoxy either. Okay, so you do the best you can with it, and then that's it. You got to leave it alone. Right? You start overworking it, you're creating more problems by adding air to it. Okay, so you do it. You fin roll it a couple times. You work it, put a little heat to it, and then walk away. Nice and easy. Bing. Now, here's the fun part. I like to work it down a little bit with my hands. This way I can move the carbon around if I have to. And if this is going to help wake up that excess resin, and we're not going to need as much resin as we did the last time. So we did 8 ounces. This is a 5-ounce mat, so we did usually like how heavy the material is how much resin you're going to use. But in this case, next time around we're going to mix up a little bit less because it's already wicking on us. It's very nice. And then with the coremat's going to hold so much resin that, believe me, this thing ain't going nowhere. All right, so now that we have that laid down, because I got so much nice resin coming through, I'm going to fin roll this. Nice and nice. Let that mat just soak it up. You see it all coming up to the surface. This is actually a really good amount of resin coming through. All except for right there at the top. But down here, this is beautiful. If this were like, say, the last layer and we were only using carbon, I'd be probably just do maybe 2 ounces, 3 ounces. But. All right, so unlike the first layer, now I'm starting to apply a little pressure, guys. All right, I'm working it in there. I'm spreading it around like I said. I'm working it down into the material. Okay, and this is affecting that first layer. Okay. Again, it's super flat, pressed out. See? So you start working the epoxy, see it's turning white, that's all air. Alright? It's because I'm working it hard right now. Alright? So, you know, we're solving one thing, but we're creating another, so we gotta be cognizant of that. But the rest of the like the next layer is gonna go boom, real quick. Watch this shit. Just slap it on there, guys. Have no fear. This is that nasty stuff too, guys. Like, you want to talk about itchy? This will make you itch. Okay? Carbon, not so bad. But this, whew. And if you never really work with glass, I will tell you this. There's a lot of things that I can endure. But if you work with glass unprotected, there's nothing worse. I mean, I had the itchies when I was cutting the boat up. I was like, whatever. I was outside, no shirt, shorts. Ooh, man, it got me good. You know, tough guy, you know. Okay, it's wicking through real nice. I like that. I'll give it a little, just a press down real quick. Now, things are going to start to get, not tricky, but we're going to start getting a little bit more heavy-handed with the resin because we have the coremat that's going to go on next. And that's going to suck up a lot of resin. So right now, we've gone 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got 11 ounces so far. This is 17. This is 17 ounce. So half of that, because it's about a half a yard. So this should take a total of, say, around 8. So I'm going to mix up 8 ounces. I know it's going to be too much because it's already wicking up. All right. And right now I'm working it. I want to see how much it's going to take. But by the time I'm done with this, I'm going to have a fat layup of resin sitting on top of this, because when we drop the coremat on, we're going to have to, I don't have too much room here, guys, so in a perfect world I'd have a different table, and I would lay up the coremat on one side, and then I'd flip it, then I'd stick it down, and then I'd lay the resin on top. But I don't have the room, so we're going to have to just freestyle it. So when it comes to this biaxel, you know, we're switching from the carbon to the glass. It takes a second or two more for it to pull the epoxy in. So you just put it on, work it around, let it do its thing. But it definitely sucks it up. You want it to change color, you want, you know, see how it's turning black where it's sucking up. You know, it's showing through the carbon, so. You don't gotta work it too hard because it'll take it. It just takes a little time. All right, just make sure my position is good. We're in the middle. All right, just to give you an idea of what this coremat's doing. You see how you get that leading trail of resin? That's how you know it's full. Last step now, last piece, and this is where we're gonna do a little bling bling. There's going to be some excess here, guys, that does not look like it's going to be used, but it's going to be cut off. I'm going to use that in different, I'm going to use that for different little brackets and stuff. So with my thin roller, I could just work the 1700 into the coremat a little bit. Now this will be visible when you're on the inside of the car, like when you're sitting in the passenger seat or the driver's seat. It will be visible, so we're going to make it look as good as we can by, you can buy tint, any color really for this epoxy. So I got some black, tinted it. I've already put it in the cup because my hands, you see it's in there. Just going to give her a little mix. All right, so that's our final. I did jack it up and put some blocks of wood under there. I had some epoxy dripping on the back. I was afraid it would stick to the table. So this isn't ideal because you want to try to keep this flat, but it is what it is. I'm afraid to stick it back down because who knows what's back there. But I did do a little perimeter cut, but it's nothing final. So to me, it looks pretty good. The good, the bad, the ugly. The good is it laid down nice, no air bubbles. We got the thickness that we're looking for. The ugly, it's a little blotchy on the color, but nothing a spray bomb won't fix. In the end, the finished, this will be like the finished look to it. I like that rawness that it has. So we're going to let this do its thing for about 24, 36 hours. I'll check it periodically, and then we'll pop it off. I figured the coremat's 4 mil, and then the 2 layers of 1700 plus the carbon. We should be approximately right around 250 thousandths, which would be 1/4 of an inch. All right, guys, it's been 24 hours. It's a little green yet, I can tell on the edges, but it's gonna pull right off. I've already I cut the corners off and already kind of started fiddling with it. But let's pop it. I mean, I'm dying to see it. Just take a little wedge. Boom. Sounds good. Yeah, all right. Now the PVA is still on it, so we're going to peel that off. You can see beautiful. Look what the tape was, the finish we got. And then we got that nice satin finish everywhere else, you see? Wow, beautiful. All right, for some reason the PVA is not pulling off. Maybe I didn't put enough of it on. It's supposed to pull off like this. I wanted to give you an example of how the PVA actually is supposed to peel off. I think on the flat panel, maybe I didn't wait long enough before I started doing my layup. But as you can see, this is how it comes off. Super nice. And then what we're looking at on this, I used a surfboard resin on this part, and you know, it's half the time. It's a little bit cheaper too, but the result is beautiful, as you can see. And this is going to be an interior rocker panel slash cable rigging, I guess, tube cable rigging channel. All right, so there you go. Pretty cool. As you can see, a couple little edge. I'll just hit that real quick with some sandpaper and be done with it. But the finish is good. This is a structural piece, guys. His layup on this was totally different. So if you want to know more about this, just get with me, okay? You know, one of the nice parts about doing a hand layup too, on the edge, you know how you get that carbon, you get that Kevlar string on the edge. When I made one union, I purposely left this, all right, because I want you to see it. You know, you're not going to find stuff like that in parts that you would buy. So I thought that was just a nice little detail, and I'll make sure that lines up nicely when look at that. I'll make sure that lines up nicely in conjunction with where this is going to bolt up into the car. Guys, my people, if that ain't sexy AF, I don't know what is. All right, but we'll get her wiped down and get a look at it when she's dry. So here's how we're looking after about, I don't know, 36 hours. Pretty dense. I mean, it moves a little bit, but pretty good. So something like this, it's going to take maybe another couple days to fully cure. It'll probably get about maybe 5 or 6% stiffer. I mean, I can flex it. I'm putting some weight into it, so there you go. All right, so you do get, with the coremat, you do get a little bit of an edge here. Nothing that a little bit of paint or something like that won't fix. I mean, when you sand it, you could sand it, put it on a router table, do whatever you want to do. Let's talk dollars and cents. If you were to go out right now and buy a full solid carbon fiber sheet, 1/4 inch thick, something like this in solid carbon, it's going to be a perfect piece if you buy it from a manufacturer of carbon fiber. It's going to be most likely vacuum bagged. It might be pre-preg, that's baked in the oven. So the quality is very high, very good aerospace quality. I don't need aerospace quality, I just need Tony D quality. All right, this is really strong and worked out well. Parts like this, when they're handmade, you could spend, hours and hours and hours getting it just perfect, but a little imperfection here and there for me is okay because I get it, it's handcrafted, all right? At this point, right now, 2022, if you were to buy a piece of 1/4 inch carbon from a manufacturer, it's gonna run you almost $1,000. Something like this, you can build this for about $160, okay? Pretty drastic savings, if you ask me. I'm gonna leave you on that one. One of the things to take away from this video, I guess, is some of the basic techniques from the mold all the way up to your finished part, okay? With a little bit of creativity, thinking, a little planning, the sky's the limit, guys. You can make anything you want. I'm trying to ride, like, hopefully this summer. All right? So on that one, guys, I'm gonna let you go. I hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you got something out of it. In the first carbon fiber video that I put out to you guys, I mentioned that doing this kind of work has really helped me in my life, especially when it came down to making custom parts and helping me make some of these thoughts in my mind come true, okay? Maybe it's not 100% perfect, and maybe it's not 100% of the best quality, but it was made and it functioned the way I wanted it to, okay? So refine your techniques, find what works for you, find products that work for you. If there's anything that you can contribute to make something like this better, please comment below. And that's pretty much it, okay? So until the next one, guys, be safe and keep cranking out your parts, keep cranking on your builds, and keep doing the thing that keeps you planted, grounded, and makes you happy, all right? Peace.